for blood pressure modulation, like you said, it's the lowest hanging fruit. Like you can check it easily at home. How would you like first line of defense?
This one is all about, first line defense here is not pharmacotherapy. It is weight management and exercise in that order. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's like for every pound of weight loss, you're going to get like, I don't know, 0.5 millimeter of mercury reduction in systolic diastolic. Like it's on the order of that magnitude. For every, for every 2 hours, and again, I don't want to be quoted on these numbers because it's just directional, but there's a metric, like for every X hours of aerobic activity per week, there's like a 10-point reduction in systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So, I think many people who have stage 1 hypertension can be fixed without pharmacotherapy. And it really comes down to those are the big two. There's also something around sodium modulation. So I had a podcast with a guy named Rick Johnson, who's a nephrologist, and talked about the literature showing how it's not so much the absolute sodium content you consume, but it's the dilution of sodium in your food. So you could have two people that are both eating 4 grams a day of sodium, but it depends on how much water is being paired with that sodium. So if one person is like, thirsty while they're eating their potato chips, and the other person is drinking a ton of water with their potato chips, they're going to have a completely different hemodynamic response to it. So the more concentrated your sodium consumption, the higher the blood pressure goes. This is very interesting, and it might explain why there is really so much confusion around the role of sodium in hypertension management, and the data are so conflicting. It could simply be that this might be the missing link in there, and that sodium does matter, but not in absolute quantity the way people assume. If all these things don't work, there really is a condition called essential hypertension. In other words, there is truly still this phenomenon where some people who are doing all the right things, and I have patients like this where they're lean, they're metabolically healthy, like there's nothing they're doing out there, and yet if you didn't put them on a medicine, they'd be 140/90. And so we do also turn to pharmacology here, and I think we should have a very, very short hurdle to do so if all the other things aren't working. And by the way, there's no shame in putting a person on the medication while you work through those other things. So if I have a person who's hypertensive, I'm probably going to put them on medication while we do those other things. And the success story is weaning them off that hypertensive medicine. But you just don't need any endothelial exposure to hypertension. There's no scenario by which having high blood pressure is good. It's so bad for the heart, and it's so bad for the brain, and it's so bad for the kidneys. And you and I spoke earlier about, in fact, this is actually a perfect parallel to something you and I spoke about on the other podcast, which was hair loss, right? Like if a guy's hair is falling out and he wants to do something about it, like the time to do it is now. Don't wait a year until you've lost more follicles to do something about it. And similarly, if your blood pressure is high, you are killing nephrons every single day, the functional unit of your kidney. And once they're gone, they never come back. And as much as I'm sure people don't want to lose their hair, it's way worse to lose your kidneys. So if your blood pressure is high, get it treated while you're losing weight, improving metabolic health, getting rid of your sleep apnea, another huge preventable cause, by the way. So sleep apnea left untreated needs to be treated. All these things super much matter.